The Green Bay Packers just got more proof that they stole the NFL draft in 2022. What do I mean by that? Before I get into it, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. Let me first bring you up to speed on the latest news coming out of Green Bay on the kicking front. If you haven't heard, the Packers have cut ties with James Turner. It is now a two-man race between Anders Carlson, a guy who struggled at the end of last season, and former Minnesota Viking Greg Joseph. This is going to be a tight two-man race, and throughout the first week of training camp, it has been very neck and neck. Yesterday, Anders Carlson struggles just slightly. He goes 2 for 3, making him 21 and 24 throughout the first week of training camp. Greg Joseph slightly upstages him, goes 3 for 3 on the kicking front, and he is 22 and 24 throughout the first week of training camp. Again, the Packers bringing in Greg Joseph to add that extra competition to help sharpen and refine Anders Carlson, but they're seeing the fruits of that labor because Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph nearly flawless throughout the first week of training camp. Matt LaFleur really doesn't intend to make a decision until preseason is really full swing and there's a definitive front runner to that race. So let's get into it. What do I mean by the Packers just got proof that they stole the 2022 draft? Well, the Packers don't have a definitive number one wide receiver, but Romeo Doubs is continuing to show himself and prove himself as that guy that Jordan Love is really can rely on and can look to, and really, quite frankly, Matt LaFleur can go to him later in the game. As we saw last season, he had a very strong end to last season, but Romeo Doubs gets very high praise from one of the Packers defenders, and it happens to be one of the best corners in the league in Jair Alexander, a guy who's not a stranger to covering some really good talent out there, some very good wide receivers. He had some very high praise for Romeo Doubs, calling him the second best receiver in the league behind Devontae Adams, former Packer. Again, coming from Jair Alexander, that's some pretty high praise. Of course, it may be because he's getting burned in practice by Romeo Doubs. Maybe that has something to do with it, but this is a guy that has seen Romeo Doubs grow as a rookie to a third-year guy right now. But here's what Jair Alexander had to say about him. He says he goes about it the right way. He comes in, I mean, he catches 100 balls and he catches more after practice. You can see he's a real pro. You can see his attention to detail is very on point. That is, again, very high praise coming from Jair Alexander. This is a guy who, if you remember last year, I can't remember who it was, what analyst out there was really just knocking Romeo Doubs, calling him one of the worst wide receivers in the league. He actually said he was like top 5 worst receivers in the league, which is very laughable because this is a guy that has been super good. In fact, here is what Jordan Love had to say about Romeo Doubs. He was quoted as saying, he's one of my favorite fade targets. He's going to come down with the ball. You know that about 100% of the time. Fourth round pick out of 2022, Romeo Doubs hasn't had the numbers that it goes on to say, but the dude, his rookie season, 42 catches, 425 yards as a rookie. He's improved to 59 receptions for 674 yards last year, 8 touchdowns last season. But again, when you're just staring at the stats and looking at the numbers, yes, that is a very big drastic change between his rookie year and last year. But more so glaring than that the numbers aren't showing right there is that the dude was tremendously reliable for Jordan Love, especially in the playoffs at Dallas. If you remember, even in San Francisco. But it goes on to say there are more important traits like 47.6 a contested catch rate and a 13.6 touchdown rate throughout the first week of training camp. He has been a focus on the passing game. And Adam Stenovich had this to say about it. He said, His route running right now has been pretty tremendous. The last half of last season, he has been playing on a pretty high level since then, and he's continued to do so far at training camp. So again, very high praise coming from not only Jair Alexander but Adam Stenovich. So how did he do yesterday in practice? Let's take a look at what Romeo Doubs was able to accomplish yesterday in practice. He said with Jordan Love at quarterback, Romeo Doubs won all 3 reps against Jair Alexander in the one-on-ones in the red zone. The first rep, Doubs worked a couple different moves before breaking inside and scoring a touchdown. On the next rep, Doubs went airborne to catch a touchdown over Jair Alexander. Again, coming into play with those strong hands, that is only working in Romeo Doubs' favor. You see that again, winning that 50-50 ball between Jair and him. On the third matchup, Doubs beat Alexander on an out. But Love led him too far, but Doubs would have had another touchdown. Doubs took it all in stride. Doubs says, I just work. He knows better than I do. It's just work. I get to go out against him every day. That's a blessing. Talking about Jair Alexander, and wow, talking about iron sharpening iron. When you've got Jair Alexander and just covering Romeo Doubs, that's only going to make him better. And Jair Alexander, same thing. It's going to make him better. Obviously, Romeo Doubs has done way better on his route running abilities. In fact, Matt LaFleur had this to say about him. He said when he prepares, very deliberate, takes coaching very hard, night and day better from when he was a rookie. His ability to get off the ball. He's a great route runner, takes a lot of pride in his routes, very strong hands. He catches more balls than anyone in the building, pre and post practice. He's always working. It's not a shock to me. The guy puts in the work, and you're seeing the benefits from that. And man, that not a resounding theme that we are hearing? And again, we heard it yesterday and yesterday's video when we were talking about Jeff Hafley, what he had to say about giving props to Brian Gutekunst for drafting not just good talent, but high character guys on and off the field, guys that are willing to put in the work, but yet at the same time, the vets, the quote unquote vets on the team are willing to coach the young guys up. They take the time to do that. High character guys. And you're seeing that again in Romeo Doubs. Let's take a look. This is quite fascinating. Let's take a look at the 2022 draft. As you can see right there, our first 2 picks in our first round were Quay Walker. And we're going to see a huge jump forward from Quay Walker, really from his rookie season to what he's able to do and cut loose under Jeff Hafley. Again, same thing. Both Georgia boys, Devontae White, you're going to see a big leap forward. You're going to see why we took him in the first round. Same thing with Quay Walker. Cannot wait to see him paired along Cooper this year. Cannot wait to see that. Christian Watson, another one of those guys. If he can stay healthy, this dude is incredibly dangerous. Sean Ryan, all things considered, not a bad offensive lineman. And then you got Romeo Doubs, the 4th round. He was a 4th round steal for the Packers, especially when he's getting the high praise that he's getting out there from his teammates, from his coaching staff. Zach Tom, 4th round, another 4th round steal for the Packers. JJ Kingsley-Egnibari, you got him in the 5th round. And then you move on to Rasheed Walker there in the 7th round, along with chasing that up with Samori Toure in the 7th round. The Packers, again, brilliant job. If you look back at draft classes and what Brian Gutekunst is able to do out there in the draft, again, more proof that they stole the 2022 draft. And we're probably going to do another video a year or 2 from now, more proof that the Packers stole the 2024 draft. As always, go Pack Go.